Avoidants often carry a deep core wound of shame. And this wound of shame is the driving force behind a lot of avoidant behaviors. This wound of shame is the direct result of consistent childhood emotional neglect. They weren't given the love and the nurturing in the way that they needed, and their feelings were routinely dismissed, often rejected and even reprimanded for showing emotions. They often grew up in households where you didn't talk about feelings, parents that didn't say I love you very much. And when they showed any kind of negative emotion, there were consequences. The message was sent loud and clear. Your emotions are not welcome here. Both dismissive and fearful avoidants experience that childhood emotional neglect. Now, fearful avoidants also experience some sort of form of chaos, volatility, or perhaps even abuse, but the neglect was present. This results in that shame wound, that wound of feeling like they are unlovable, that they are defective, that there's something wrong with them. They personalize that lack of love they receive from their parents or caretakers. Shame is a toxic emotion. People often confuse it with something like guilt, but they're not the same. Guilt is, I did something wrong. Guilt means, I feel bad about what I did, but there's a way to resolve guilt. You cannot repeat the behavior that you feel guilty about, and you can make amends. But whereas guilt is, I did something wrong, shame is, I am something wrong. There is no resolution to that. But that feeling of being defective is at the heart of avoidant insecure attachment. That's why they put these walls up. That's why they shield off their heart and keep their partner at an emotional arm's length. That's why they fear vulnerability. Because the subconscious fear of the avoidant is, if I get too vulnerable, my partner is going to figure out that I'm defective, that I am unlovable, that there's something wrong with me. So they keep their partner on the other side of that wall. That's how they stay safe. It prevents them from being exposed as being defective. And when they get triggered, their immediate instinct is to create emotional distance between themselves and their partner to feel safe. That's why often after being excessively vulnerable with a partner, they immediately go and push this person away and create that emotional distance. Because at their heart, at their core, that vulnerability just feels unsafe. But back in childhood, due to that emotional neglect and due to not being able to express their feelings, they were on their own when it came to emotions. So they learned to suppress them, bottle them up, just avoid dealing with anything that's stressful or painful. They were never shown how to process stress or any kind of painful negative emotion. They learned to avoid, just to suck it up and deal with it. This core wound of shame is also why avoidants struggle mightily with self-reflection. Because when you self-reflect, you have to process emotions, not suppress them. You have to see where you've gone right, where you've gone wrong, take accountability, and reflect on how your behavior impacts others. That's very painful for them. One, they've learned to avoid pain. And number two, if they were to self-reflect and take accountability, they would be confirming their own inner defectiveness to themselves. See, instead of just saying, I did this wrong, it's, I did this wrong because I'm defective. Instead of, I hurt my partner, it's, I hurt my partner because I'm defective. It would be too painful and confirm to them that there's something wrong with them. That's also why they tend to be very defensive when they get criticized, because they receive criticism as confirmation of their own inner defectiveness. So they avoid this shame wound at all costs. They put a mask up, they keep their partners at emotional arm's length, and they don't want to confront it. They avoid it. And they associate vulnerability with things like abandonment, rejection, losing independence. Abandonment would be inevitable if they got figured out as being defective. Rejection would be inevitable if they get figured out as being defective and unlovable. They also generally had a parent or caretaker or both that was excessively controlling, so they fear losing their independence too, because if they get too close to someone, not only are they going to get rejected, abandoned, they'll lose their independence first, and then once they're abandoned, they'll have completely lost their ability to take care of themselves. It seems overwhelming, it seems frightening, so when they get triggered, they feel this sudden urge to just run away and create distance. And due to a lack of self-reflection, they are often completely unaware as to why they feel afraid of vulnerability and why they struggle to communicate and why they feel the urge to run away. But it is that shame wound that is the driving force behind much of this behavior. When you're on the receiving end of this behavior, it can feel personal, like a rejection of you. But understanding the experiences of the avoidant and their specific fears and wound of shame, it is not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of this person's unhealed attachment wounds, their unhealed traumas, their insecurities, yes, as well as their character, because everybody does have a choice. We all have free will, and we can dictate our own behavior. But if you were a consistent, loving partner to the avoidant, and they pushed you away, discarded you, blindsided you, showed you no empathy, were completely detached from their emotions, recognize they're protecting themselves in their own mind in a very unhealthy, maladaptive way that unfortunately does lack consideration of your feelings and empathy. But it's nothing you caused. And when you understand it's not you, you can find it easier to heal, let go, and move on.